The Supreme Court gives Ohio the right to place bets on the Browns and the Buckeyes. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Jesse Balmert, State House reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Julie Carr-Smythe, State House correspondent for the Associated Press, Sam Gresham of Common Cause Ohio, and Gene Krebs, former state legislator. For decades, the only places you could legally gamble was Las Vegas and Atlantic City. Then little by little, casinos spread across the country. Now they're just about everywhere. So it was only a matter of time before the last remaining gambling sector would go mainstream legally. This week, the U.S. Supreme Court did just that, nullifying the federal ban on sports betting. That leaves it to states like Ohio to decide if they want it. 10 short years ago, there was no gambling in Ohio, except for the lottery and horse tracks. Then came casinos and racinos. Now both men running for governor say they are open to the idea of us betting our life savings on the Browns to cover the spread. Sam Gresham, how eager are you to do that, and how long before it happens?
Well, first I have to say I predicted this 10 years ago, that we'd have a glut of gambling. I think there's some points that are missed. This is an inevitable evolution of the need for revenue in the state government. This is inevitable. It was going to get there. Now, in the early stages, it's going to always overpromise and underperform. It's always going to do that. But there's some subtleties in this because of the domestic locality. You can do it in your state. I think there are two things we better watch out for. College athletics. I'm really concerned about what now happens to college athletics. I'm also concerned about if they don't compensate them young men and young ladies who are participating in college athletics. The people who are doing these bettings will.
But it's happening already. They estimate that Ohio sports betting is a $3 billion a year industry. Like 95% of it is illegal. Mm-hmm. So it's happening now. Mm-hmm. Will this change things much?
Well, I think that a way that politicians can kind of hedge their bets on this is that they can say, well, it's not that I favor expanded gambling. The climate is just such that we, the lawmakers, need to get ahead of a ballot measure which would be controlled by people we don't know, and they're outsiders to our state who would be setting our rules. We've seen it over and over again where some threat of a ballot measure comes forward and then the lawmakers act on something they haven't wanted to do in a very long time. So, and there is a valid point to it that if you control that process and you legislate it and put it into the revised code, you have more control in authoring that. Recently
with the two redistricting measures, one for the state house and one for Congress, and one for the congressional districts just passed.
Yeah, but I think Sam's right. This is an opportunity for mischief, and it's the state encouraging and aiding and abetting dysfunctional behavior. We have 200,000 lottery addicts in the state of Ohio who each week bet 40% or more of their weekly income on lottery products. But I think what you're really seeing here for the gambling industry, the millennials, they don't smoke. Drinking's going down, and they do not go to Las Vegas, and they do not play the ponies. And so long-term, their market's collapsing on them. They're trying to come up with new ways.
Jesse, will lawmakers act on this before it goes to the ballot?
So I think Julie's right that there's going to be some pressure from ballot groups to, make lawmakers go forward on this perhaps faster than they would edgewise. Reporters and we spoke with Senate President Larry Ophoff this week. He doesn't seem like he's in a huge rush to get moving on this. Lawmakers are meeting next week and then breaking until the end of November after the November election. And so if you think this is coming to your door immediately, I think you're going to be in for a wait.
There is a proposal out of Cleveland. Rick Lertzman, a Cleveland businessman, he's proposing a ballot issue, fall of 2019. This sports betting could go anywhere. Restaurants, bars, all around the state. But not only that, he wants to expand the casino gambling, the slot machines statewide, into restaurants. He basically wants to blow up the 2009 amendment and just say anywhere and everywhere.
So he's leaving out daycare centers?
You know, you're right. But what's going to escalate it? West Virginia is positioning itself. Pennsylvania is positioning itself. Michigan hasn't done anything yet, and Indiana has. The pressure becomes when those surrounding states are doing this, and we don't have the goodies and the programs.
I think that's true, but we specifically asked him about West Virginia, and he was like, well, if West Virginia's doing it, we're fine waiting here. So I think if it's every surrounding state, that adds to that, but who knows? And I know Senator Joe Schiavone, who recently was running for governor as a Democrat, has introduced a bill or is introducing a bill to this effect. So it's something they're going to be talking about soon, but whether they're moving on it is another thing entirely.
Right, and it does become, when something like the U.S. Supreme Court makes a decision, then it is a war between the states over whether or not they want to expand or risk not expanding and have people leave the state to take their business.
You talked about millennials. Is the sports betting at a casino or at a facility so passé? I mean, we have fantasy baseball, daily fantasy baseball and football. It's all done online.
Yeah, but
So how do you fit that into a state program?
well, that's definitely part of it. But for the millennials, they are simply not going to casinos, to racetracks, or anything like that. Going back to the other points, but made in very valid points. If it comes to Ohio, it will have to be tightly regulated and viewed not unlike how we handle liquor sales through state stores. And only in certain locations, brown bags, taking it out. In other words, make it as unsexy as is possible, but also put a huge amount of the money from that then directly back into gambling addiction. Because on one hand, we have advertising encouraging people to gamble, and so we are encouraging a dysfunctional behavior. Let's face it, that's what this is.
Right, and I mean, the interesting thing, as to your original point, you know, the fact that both the Democrat and Republican running for governor are favoring this just shows how inevitable it feels to people at this point after all these years of fighting back against it.
But I think there's also going to be other questions other than just, will the state allow this? There'll be questions for, like, universities. Should professors be able to bet on the outcome of games where their students might be football players or something? So I think after the state makes this decision, there's going to be so many other parts of this to figure out.
I go back to my phrase, an opportunity for mischief here, isn't it?
Potentially.
I mean, and all sorts of things could explode this. The problem is that its availability and its proximity and the social implications of it surrounding you. You know, Vegas was off somewhere else. This is right in front of you. And the people who are doing it are right in front of you.
But the casino on the west side, it hasn't lived up to the promises.
No.
It hasn't created the jobs, but it's created some jobs. But the prostitution, do we know of, has not come. The crime has not increased in that area.
No.
I don't know the stats on compulsive gambling or gambling addiction in Ohio. My guess is it has increased a little, but it hasn't been the gloom and doom that the opponents said it was going to be when they proposed it.
But Mike, that's always true. If you look at the availability of it, it is now everywhere. You can go and do gambling anywhere you want. It makes it insidious and hard to see because it's not like everybody goes to the domino place or everybody goes to wherever and you can't see the clusters. But it's worse now because the people who are doing it are really addicted to it. It changes the chemistry in their body.
All right. We still don't know who will be one of the 3 most powerful people in state government. House Republicans met this week to try to pick a new House Speaker. They could not. Apparently, State Rep Ryan Smith of Southeast Ohio fell a few votes short of the 50 he needed to secure the top spot. That prompted the House to cancel its session this week, where they plan to, make laws. Ryan says he is confident he'll have the votes to become Speaker by the time the House meets again on Wednesday. Jesse Balmert, is that the thinking, that they'll get this thing settled between now and the 23rd?
So I think that is Smith's desire to have it settled next week. I think there's going to be a lot of chats over the weekend. I, for one, spent 4 hours outside of various rooms where they were chatting earlier this week. So they're going to have to be more productive than the conversations they've had already. Like you said, Ryan Smith was the top vote getter out of the 65-member caucus. The Republicans are going to have to pick somebody. There are 33 Democrats in the Ohio House who have said, we're not buying into whoever you pick. Essentially, there are some concerns about the FBI investigation that is surrounding the resigned Speaker Cliff Rosenberger. There's also some concerns about GOP donor money being spent and whether that was spent wisely. And so I think there were a lot of things that Republicans have contentions about. Ryan Smith hopes that he's the person who comes out of that, but Andy Thompson, a representative from the Marietta area, was also somebody who got about 20 votes, and Representative Dorothy Polando was also in the mix as well. So the question is, do you want to go with Ryan Smith, who is one of two people who've been in this kind of bitter speaker battle with former Speaker Larry Householder, or do you want to go with a term-limited person who might just keep it rolling for the rest of 2018?
I liked how Andy Thompson put it. He said, after Let It Be, I can be their Abbey Road. I have no dog in this fight. I'm term limited, and I think that it's possible we could end on a high note. And
Gee, that seems to, it seems to make the most sense because they're going to go through this fight again in January.
Right.
It's guaranteed.
Right.
Why not just have a placeholder for the one session here in May, and then the lame duck session in November will be important.
Yeah.
But just have a placeholder for that one.
What the real fight is over is for some of the members, many of the members, they view the campaign arm of the House Republicans as being decadent. And what I mean by that is that how it works is that sometime around September, you get a phone call from the caucus saying, you don't have that much of a campaign. We need all your money. All the money that you've laboriously have raised from your people, we need it all. You can keep 1,000, okay? And so you give it. And because it's for the team, it's to help get your other people elected, get your colleagues elected, and keep the caucus going. Well, now they find out it's being blown on dinners at Lindy's.
Ooh, not good.
And those members are going, oh, wait a minute here. I feel used. We need to have, are we going to have any guardrails put in place? They're not having, that discussion did not happen in that caucus.
But the 800-pound gorilla is Larry Householder.
He's Larry Householder, but it's the backbenchers, it's the ordinary representatives sitting there going, we're not happy. And I know that Smith has been promising some members, well, you vote for me, I'll put right to work on the floor.
But isn't it almost given that our Householder, will win this when the regular vote comes at the end of the year?
It's very likely, in my opinion, because of what he did in the primaries.
Right.
And I think what it also proves is that for so many of these members who, they've only been there for 6 years, and they think they know how everything works. To coin a phrase, take a phrase from Barry Switzer of Oklahoma, he said that some people are born on third base and they think they hit a triple. Okay? Hey, I'm here. I'm the chair of this. I'm the vice of this.
Julie, what does this mean for policymaking, for lawmaking in Ohio between now and the end of the year? Is anything going to get done? I mean, payday lending is still sitting there, and that's what kind of started this whole mess.
right, I think that it remains to be seen. The 50 votes is not in law or even in rule anywhere. The point being, the current leader of the chamber has said, Kirk Schuring has said, we have to have 50. If our leader doesn't have 50 and we go back into sessions and we have a controversial bill and I can't even control a majority of the 99, I can't get anything done. And I think that Sam is right that Householder is the gorilla in the room because he's not put his name in for this speaker fight. But if Smith wins it, some would say he's positioning better to be the next speaker. But then others could say he would be facing a horrible defeat if he then, Householder doesn't have the votes right now because he has to wait for January.
And the one thing we do know after this primary is Householder knows how to run races. And the Smith and the Republican campaign committee does not know how to run races.
Because Larry Householder had a slate of candidates who promised to vote for him for speaker, and he backed them in the primary. Many of those folks won.
He took 10 out of 11. Okay? It's not a fair fight.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get to our other topic that's swirling around the State House. There is one group benefiting from the collapse of the electronic classroom of tomorrow, and that's Ohio Charities. They suddenly find themselves the recipients of tens of thousands of dollars in campaign donations ECOT officials once gave to Ohio politicians, most of them Republicans. As the FBI starts looking at the failed virtual charter school and its overinflated attendance figures, prominent GOP lawmakers are doing a 180 on the school. They're giving back those donations. Auditor Dave Yost, who was a few years ago praising the school for its record keeping, now says an audit shows possible fraud, and he's referred the case to prosecutors. Julie Carr Smythe, how does Dave Yost in particular justify what he said then, that ECOT was doing well, with this current audit it says could be criminal?
Well, there are a couple things. One is that the clean audits that the school was getting before were, he says, financial audits that reflected the laws and the rules put upon the school at the time. Those laws changed. I mean, those rules changed between this current school year and the one before, and so they had to meet some new rules. So this audit looks at, and the fraud comes from a use of a software that came into play after those first findings. So I think he's saying that, and he also really was talking about how the awards that his office gave were, they were merely for, jumping through hoops. Anyone can get those, and they're not really for having clean books. They're for, meeting certain benchmarks or whatever. So
I did feel bad for the counties that have those hanging on their walls, like, oh, this is just perfunctory, guys.
He sends those releases out, I think, once a week. So these are the ones that got great audits and they did a great job. Well, now it's just.
Well, Yost is not the only one that will be unscathed in this. The AG, the Attorney General, has a lot to be accountable for in this whole set of circumstances. I don't know what happened, but one day somebody turned the door, and the great things in ECOC were doing went away. And then all these things started showing up. And I don't think the law enforcement, the education department, the Attorney General, nor the regulatory systems were doing what they were supposed to do.
How much blowback, Gene, do Republicans fear about this?
I don't think there's going to be as much blowback on this particular scandal as some other ones, because charter schools are not found everywhere across the state. People do not feel that same immediate connection. I think it will have a impact in certain areas. So I'll go with one of my favorite analogies. It'll be like cold butter on Wonder Bread. It'll be clumpy. You won't be spread evenly. It won't be like soft butter on fresh hot toast. It's not going to be a uniform crisis everywhere. It will be a big crisis, for example, in the Worthington, Upper Arlington communities and in Dublin. But out in Napoleon, Ohio, they won't care about it.
More voters in Dublin and Worthington than Napoleon.
That's true, but I'm just saying that it's not going to be evenly applied everywhere.
And you got 12,000 students and parents, too.
But the issue is also the cumulative effect, as Jesse was pointing out. We have the speaker having resigned over this FBI thing. Now we have the FBI looking at ECOT. These were these were situations where the Republicans were sort of leading and proud of things that they were doing that are now kind of they're building up, they're adding up.
Jesse, Republicans, after this happened, were saying, you know what, we're the ones who implemented these reforms that caught ECOT. So we set up the system that perhaps had some shortcomings, but then we fixed it and we caught ECOT. How is that going to play? How does that work?
I mean, I think that has to be their argument, because they went out there and lauded this as the best thing since sliced bread, whether it is evenly spread or not. And they were out there cheerleaders for this organization, and they got a lot of money from the founder and other members there. So it is tied to them very, very closely. And so there were some laws that were passed recently that have made audits easier, have made financial records easier to look at, which is true. But there were many years where there was very little accountability for ECOT, and it was able to grow into the force that had 12,000 students and 800 employees. But to your point, I don't know if this is like Democrats' best message for the general election. I don't know how well it connects, but obviously it is a problem for Republicans.
The Democrats did get some money from ECOT's founder and ECOT officials, but not nearly as much as Republicans. Richard Cordray got $600.
Yeah. It's partially because they were not in control of the things that would regulate them. But yeah.
This is a crisis made from them. What is it, $60, $80 million misused? No, they can't walk away from this. They need to find a way to make this sound like music, that this is really bad, and they need to flare it up. I agree with you in some portion, but in the big cities, it will resonate.
I'm not saying it won't resonate. I would not advise them to make this a universal statewide advertising theme. I just think people in Napoleon, Ohio will go, I don't get this, because they don't. I wouldn't get it.
Right, and I think that I did ask Yost a question about, is it possible that bricks and mortar schools would be able, traditional public schools would be able to address some of the school choice issues that were intended to be fixed by schools like ECOT or addressed by ECOT. It's not that simple. It's difficult with the public education system that also falls under a lot of parameters and physical attendance. So I think that that's still a talking point for the fall.
There's another point, and this is resonating in my community. Nobody went to jail. Some people are concerned. $80 billion went over the wing and nobody goes to jail?
And there are better, or should I say, more translatable corruption issues out there that people are not dealing with and not talking about. But that's another topic for another day.
It's 80 million, right? It's not
80 million. 80 million.
And the investigation's just getting going. So. We'll see. John Kasich continues his independent streak. This week he declined to endorse his party's nominee for governor for now, but he did say he plans to vote for Mike DeWine. And in a not-so-subtle move against the president, Kasich announced a new office designed to help immigrants find jobs, job training, and schools in Ohio.
This is really critical in terms of full assimilation, making their lives more comfortable at a time when there can be great turbulence and anxiety. We don't want that because we want them to come to Ohio. We want them to bring their skills, we want them to bring their families, and we want them to bring their hearts because they are such an important part of the energy here in the Buckeye State.
While this office is designed to help documented immigrants, Kasich says he won't ask the immigrants' legal status. Gene Krebs, why the sudden interest in Ohio's immigrant population by the governor?
Because it's obvious he's recovered from his Scioto River fever and now has Potomac River fever. And that this is an issue that is all about Potomac River. And that's what it's about.
Does it show further that he's not interested in the Republican nomination for president and he wants to run as an independent?
You know, you get into an interesting discussion here, and I think I don't know about that, but I'll give you a broader one to think about for another time, is what happens to the GOP after Trump? Mm-hmm. What happens after Trump?
So Kasich could be hoping that it's cooler heads prevail, becomes more moderate.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that may be only 4 years. So he can lay in the cut for a while and come out, yes.
Don't know.
Right, but I do think that this is, as Gene says, I mean, he's tried for a while now to be part of this larger national political conversation. He's trying to hit on all the hot button issues, immigration now, healthcare, guns, so forth. And he's trying to be a leader whether or not he is elected to any other office. I think he wants to lead on policy. And my sense of the governor is he is an idea person. He enjoys waking up and coming up with ideas every day, and he wears people around him out a little bit with so many ideas, but he just keeps trying, keeps kicking it around.
So he's basically, now with Mike DeWine leading the ticket, John Kasich is in reality no longer the leader of the Republican Party in Ohio. It falls to Mike DeWine now to lead that ticket. So how much of this, Jesse, is just trying to maintain relevance at the State House and in the national spotlight?
Well, I think it's an issue that is being talked about a lot nationally, and so he wants to be part of that conversation. This office itself essentially just holds a bunch of services that the Ohio is already providing, so there's nothing new here. There's not a lot of money being spent here. It's a one-stop shop. So I think he's kind of attacking it from that way. But John Kasich has not been in line with Ohio Republicans or the Ohio Republican Party for several years now, and so this is not particularly new for him.
But I'm going to lay out a scenario here that has possibilities. The apocalypse after Trump goes away creates a whole new unsettled landscape for the Republican Party. It does. The opportunity then is we've gone down that road and look what it cost us. May have cost us the House, It may have cost us the Senate, and it cost us the president. We now have this cowbell on us with all these things that have been tattooed on us. Maybe the best way is to make a radical shift, dust off that autopsy,
And give it to Kasich.
and give it to Casey.
We got to get your off-the-record party shots. Gene Krebs, you up first.
After 30 months of labor, the book Bridges Across Every Divide has come out. You just Google it and you can get a copy.
All right. Sam.
I think this gambling thing will create more problems for college athletic than we believe.
Yeah, college professors flunking kids to win a bet. Imagine that. Julie.
Sherrod Brown came out of the box for the general election season with a negative ad against Renacci, and I think that is going to signal a nasty, expensive Senate campaign season.
And Jesse.
So I guess as our token millennial, I would say if sports gambling became legal in Ohio, I would root for those Ohio University Bobcats, but that might be a bad bet.
You know you can bet on them to lose, too.
You can make money any way you want.
I don't really have an off-the-record comment except to say, pats of butter on Wonder Bread. We're glad to have Gene Krebs back with us. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook, Twitter, our website, wosu.org. You can see every episode on demand. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.